So a bunch of Democratic lawmakers left the state, denying Republicans a quorum for their redistricting plans. As you know.
In Texas.
Yeah. What did I say?
You said the state, but you know,
okay.
I
In
mean,
the state of Texas.
Fair enough.
As you know, Donald Trump ordered Texans to change their redistricting maps, which is not an unheard of, but a very rare mid-census changing of the maps to essentially gerrymander 5 new Republican districts. Now, it doesn't come without risks to the Republicans because you don't know in a wave. You've diluted some of the safe Republican districts. Nevertheless, this is congressional districts. In fact, Kazar would be sort of thrown in against Doggett. I think, I don't know if you played that the other day where Doggett was like, oh, I was one of the first people to say Joe Biden's going to step aside for young leadership, but I wasn't talking about me.
You're right. Also, yeah, as Kazar's chair of the Progressive Caucus, it's obvious who should step aside if that's the case.
Kazar's 35 and Doggett's 72. Yeah. So maybe he may be older than 72. So, yes, I think you should. I mean, Doggett's actually a pretty decent as far as these things are voting, but nevertheless. So they have left the state and they went to Illinois, where apparently there is no 51 of these Democrats. There are 62 that they are in the Texas State House. And at least 51 of the 62 left the state, essentially denying quorum. Now, a lot of Republicans are pissed because they were in session last Wednesday and they were adjourned. And then it gave the Democrats a couple of days to go like, hey, what's the plan? A lot of times people like to plan before that, but okay. I'm not going to be pissy about it. And apparently the Democrats got together. Pritchard was involved and Hakeem Jeffries supposedly involved. Don't know the details of that per se. And they left the state. And I think what has happened is the governor, Pritzker, I should say, not Pritchard, offered to provide housing. Now, look, this is, these are just people who are state reps not making a lot of money.
In Texas, they make, I think most of them have other jobs. They
you have to.
Yeah, you have to, because it doesn't go, there's a very small session and you're only paid for that and not enough.
This is Republican governance. They don't want people that are interested in public service as a career, so they pay you a pittance.
And so, it's possible some of these people have, well-paying jobs that they can go away from. It's also very likely that a lot of these people can't afford to do that.
Yeah.
So Pritzker is, supporting them. How so? It's unclear because you have Abbott now threatening to prosecute them on felony charges of bribery. But here is, which is a laugh, particularly coming from Texas. But here is Pritzker.
They're here in Illinois. We're going to do everything we can to protect every single one of them and make sure that, because we know they're doing the right thing. We know that they're following the law. It's Ken Paxton who doesn't follow the law.
Yeah, seriously.
It's the leaders of Texas who are attempting not to follow the law. They're the ones that need to be held accountable.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if I were a billionaire somehow or inherited billions like Pritzker, I'd be doing stuff like this too.
It's the least you can do.
Yeah.
It's good to see. I think, Pritzker also funded the Wisconsin Supreme Court race significantly. I think he is thinking stuff like this is going to set him up for a presidential run. I suspect that he's going to have to do more in terms of his money rather than just sort of like dole out a couple of $1 million here or there, but rather tackle the fundamental issue as to whether billionaires should exist or not. But putting that aside, helpful to have that cash at the moment. Here is Greg Abbott on Fox News warning about consequences.
Said in your statement that you put out today to all of them in a letter to them, you said in addition to abandoning their offices, these legislators may also have committed felonies. What is the felony? What are the penalties for this?
So very simply, it would be bribery if any lawmaker took money to perform or to refuse to perform an act in the legislature. And the reports are these legislators have been both, they sought money and they offered money to skip the vote, to leave the legislature, to take a legislative act. That would be bribery. And so the facts will have to come out. But I think based upon comments made by legislators themselves, they face a possibility of facing bribery charges, which is a second-degree felony in the state of Texas. There's one way to cure that, and that is if they get back to the state of Texas and make quorum today at a hearing that we have at 3 o'clock, they can cure themselves of any quid pro quo that would subject them to potential bribery charges.
All right.
So this is the Eric Adams playbook, but kind of in reverse. It's basically saying, hey, if we're going to accuse you of a crime, or the government, at least in his instance, is going to, but if you do what I say politically, then that can go away.
We should also say that it's almost like, according to the Texas law, it's almost impossible to bribe anybody. And certainly
Dan
the Supreme
Patrick?
Court, has weighed in on this. On top of which, they would have to prove that the action was motivated by some type of monetary support, as opposed to they took the action and then were supported in other ways that had nothing to do with their decision to take the action.
They were upset that Abbott and company wanted to, say, ignore the issue they have with, I don't know, flooding and preparedness, and get straight to the stacking and gerrymander so Republicans can win more seats. And because they didn't want to do that, they left and broke the quorum, which they should do. Good job. And now you're a felon.
Well, I mean, also, Texas was already incredibly gerrymandered. I mean, when you look at the results in terms of like the statewide Senate races over the past few election cycles, yeah, blue Texas is still not, been realized or whatever. But it is the amount of representation that Republicans have in Congress is not does not match the, 5% differential in what a Republican versus a Democrat gets in a Senate race statewide. It's ridiculous. But they're basically trying to almost gerrymander it even further. They're already so far down the road that they should look like over their shoulder at what's coming in California, because the states like California and New York that use the nonpartisan redistricting, right? I mean, we're leaving so much on the table if they choose to go with this.
Yep.
So.
And certainly, I think Hochul and Newsom have indicated, at the very least, that they're open to being open about changing things. Really tough stuff.
I mean, you have to respond in kind, but this is also just generally, this should be federally controlled. States should not have this much control over elections. It's a joke. It's archaic, and we should have federally. I mean, we don't have a Supreme Court where we're ever going to be able to determine this sort of stuff. But this is the joke of states' rights and leaving things up to the states.
Yeah, without a doubt. The reality is, though, is that type of reform is probably
2070.
I mean, even if prayers are answered, we're several years away. I'm not going to say what kind of prayers. I think that's
Christian.
Yeah, loving prayers.
Loving
There's
prayers.
some sacrifices.
Hopes
in
and
Central
prayers.
Park.
But also, if you want to see how serious Texas takes bribery and quid pro quo, go listen to Lauren Windsor's most recent appearance on this show.
Oh, absolutely. Of course. I mean, that's technically blackmail as opposed to
Right.
that's
A little
blackmail.
quid pro quo.
Yeah, it's a quid.
blackmail.
There's a quid, there's a pro, and there's a quo. It's just, it's blackmail. It's a sort of a negative, a removal of a negative bribe.
I just like the idea that these 50 Democrats just really wanted a weekend away in Chicago. They just really, really wanted it. And they're going to risk prosecution so that they can
They
get
got to stay until December.
Pritzker to give them a hotel room.
Just wanted some Portillo's.
I mean, they got to.
I honestly think they have to stay for months until the session runs out. So we'll see. Now, maybe at one point they'll give up on it. We will see. Hey, for weeks, all we've heard is how Trump's big, beautiful bill will cut Medicaid. But almost no one's reporting on a buried provision that would make Trump untouchable. Go to ground.news/majority to see how this bill would block judges from enforcing court orders unless you, the citizen, post a bond first. Highly credible sources warn most people can't actually afford to do this, and that's pretty obvious. So if this bill passes and Trump violates the law, it wouldn't even matter, and nobody even knows, which means the GOP's flood the zone strategy is working, and it's why I think Ground News is the best tool to expose these blind spots before it's too late. My partners built the only app and website, pulling in news from across the globe, then breaking down each source's bias, credibility, and the news the right tries to bury. And considering most people take the first article they see online as fact, their browser extension is essential. What it does is it flags the source's bias and links other credible reports to verify the information. Ground News is a better version of how we're already staying informed. So I got you 40% off the same unlimited access Vantage plan that I've been using. That's just $5 a month when you go to ground.news/majority, scan my QR code, or redeem the code majority if you're using the app. With at least another 4 years of this, they're counting on you to be distracted. This app is how you stay focused. Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.
We are back, and we are joined now by Representative Greg Casar of Texas's 35th Congressional District, chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Congressman, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Emma, it's good to be with you.
Great to see you. This is a really important story, and it's hard, again, with this fire hose of news to get your hooks into anything in particular. But this is going to be the fight, it seems to me, over the next year or so with these efforts to gerrymander even more aggressively. The Republicans are trying to do this in Texas. This week, the Texas legislature has been in a special session, basically debating this kind of thing. Texas currently has 13 Democratic seats and 25 Republican seats, which, in my view, doesn't already doesn't reflect the state's kind of diverse voting population. But they want to reduce the number of Democratic seats even more, by 5 or 6. Just tell us about what's happening down in Texas right now.
Yeah, this is a 5-alarm fire for democracy and what's going on right now. Like you said, there's so many things happening in the news, but this is actually the really big one. Because if you ever want there to be any kind of accountability or check on Donald Trump's corruption, or on people continuously being kicked off their health care, or on immigration, or on any of this, the typical line, and I've been saying it, and I've been, I think, naive, is around organizing for the midterm elections to build a majority that can hold him to account. But Trump does not have a plan for winning those midterm elections. He has a plan for rigging the rules before they even happen. And if he comes in and gerrymanders even further, already extremely gerrymandered Texas, and gets away with it without cost, Trump has already said that he has plans to go and take this to state after state after state. So then once we're running in those midterm elections, it might be too late, and we can't let that happen.
And Texas redrew its maps in 2021, is my understanding. Like, what is being proposed here that would even more aggressively gerrymander the state? So
Texas Republicans have already extremely gerrymandered the state, as you laid out. There would be, look, remember, Ted Cruz in 2018 didn't even get 51% of the vote in Texas.
Right.
So we can be relatively close to a 50-50 state in a wave year, but they've got us already 2-1, Democrat to Republican. For them to gerrymander even further, and I try not to be alarmist with people, but for them to gerrymander even further would require drawing the kind of map that we haven't seen since before 1965. Because when people marched and bled for the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, those laws were passed so that you could no longer draw a map like what Donald Trump is demanding in Texas. It would require, to get 5 more seats, it isn't getting rid of 5 Democratic seats. It would require chopping up communities of color in maps in ways that have been illegal for decades, for longer than you and I have been alive.
Right.
And that's what they would do. And if they're able to get this Supreme Court to rubber stamp the end of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act as we know it, then they could spread this all across the country. And that's what they're trying to do. And they'll put even Republican incumbents in danger while doing it. And usually you wouldn't expect them to do it, but these guys don't follow the law of their own political survival. They're just Trump's water boys. And so if you've got Republican incumbents that will do anything, and potentially the end of the Voting Rights Act, that's what Trump is trying to take advantage of here.
It also protects the Republican representatives from recourse and from backlash from their own constituents. You know, so many folks were asking, well, there's all these Trump voters that are on Medicaid when they gut the program and kick 17 million people off their health care. Isn't there going to be backlash from some of their constituents? How about these rural hospitals that are going to close in really, really red districts? The problem is that they're really, really red. And so they've been so aggressively gerrymandered that it not only doesn't just protect Republicans from like a majority or, you know, in Congress, their numbers. It also, it seems to me, protects the existing Republicans from like democracy.
Well, that's actually how it traditionally has been. But here's the interesting thing, Emma, and then we want to get to what people can do to fight back against it.
Yes, for sure.
Is that traditionally they've kept them extremely red. But for them to go so far to carry Donald Trump's water and go for 5 Democratic seats, some of them may wind up in pink districts because you just can't disappear the millions of Democratic voters, especially in our cities. At some point, they're going to vote. And so that creates actually an opportunity to harness that backlash. And that's our opportunity for stopping these maps, or at least imposing a huge cost on them for putting them in place. So we've got basically a 3-point plan for fighting this, and not all doom and gloom here on your show.
Yes.
Point 1 is we've got to buy time so that we can execute the strategy I'm about to lay out. And Texans have a great tradition of buying time with filibusters, like Wendy Davis's filibuster against abortion bans here in Texas, and quorum breaks. The Texas Constitution says that if the Democrats basically leave the floor in the House or the Senate, you shut it down. And so we need to buy time, and national attention and national support for that strategy will be critical in Texas, but also your viewers here and listeners across the country. Then step 2, you like, what, Greg, what will you do with that time? We can mobilize enormous resources to run against the Republicans who will now be in much lighter red or pinker seats. Because if Trump is demanding that they give up a bunch of their voters and move it around to get rid of Democratic voters, these Republicans could be newly vulnerable. We could recruit great candidates there. And then our third step is we've got to impose a huge cost on them. And that's why I think it's really good that Governor Gavin Newsom is saying he could start redistricting in California so that Republicans reap what they sow. And if they think they can pick up a few seats in Texas, well, then we damn well better start looking at picking up seats in states with Democratic governors. This kind of strategy, buying time, bringing people together all across the country, running at the Republicans that won't stand up for their own constituents, that's the way that we stop this wildfire from spreading, not just across Texas, but all across the country. We can't just let Trump run roughshod over the Voting Rights Act. Otherwise, he'll just be totally unaccountable.
Yeah, and we should say that the Supreme Court has kind of enabled this level of racist gerrymandering with their previous decision, striking down parts of the Voting Rights Act. But you mentioned Gavin Newsom and California and how they are, talking about fighting back. Can you explain to folks the state of these blue states and their redistricting process, because Democrats have kind of long held on to this belief that while Republicans are going to be partisan and crazy, let's just maintain nonpartisan redistricting committees in blue states like California or New York. Some, like Illinois, I believe, has done some of its own kind of more partisan gerrymandering to fight back against Republicans. But our biggest, most populous states, that's not the case. So speak about that a bit more, if you don't mind.
Yeah, look, I am deeply for getting rid of gerrymandering across the country.
Yeah.
What I'm not for is letting Republicans follow their own sets of rules and have an authoritarian power grab while we are Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts failing our own constituents. So look, if California having an independent commission inspired Texas to have one, that would be great. But that's not what's happening right now. California having an independent commission is rewarding people like Trump and Abbott to come suppress the voting rights of millions of people of color in my state. So in my view, I think the actual progressive but living in the real world attitude should be California should have an independent commission that is triggered when Texas has one. New York's independent commission should only draw an independent map once Florida has one. That's how we actually get to a level playing field and get rid of gerrymandering across the country. Otherwise, blue state governors protecting independent commissions is what enables there to not be independent commissions, especially in the former Confederate states.
Yeah.
That's the reality. So we've got to be progressives living in the real world where people are suffering right now. And then hopefully we can elect a majority, a pro-democracy majority in the Congress to just pass a law saying banning gerrymandering nationwide. I'm not saying that we get rid of independent commissions for a state legislature, for example, because there they all play by the same state's rules. But it doesn't make any sense for Texas to suppress voting rights and then California not to do anything about it because, they've had this commission for a while.
And can you speak a little bit about Trump himself and his role in trying to pressure Texas to do this? You mentioned it earlier because he's worried about the midterms and he just wants to subtract seats. But it is unusual, to say the least, to have a president weighing in on this so publicly, so aggressively. And your just assessment of what you just described as authoritarian, and I would share your view.
Yeah, look, Donald Trump, it's been widely reported, made it personal phone calls into Texas to say, you are giving me 5 of your seats. I mean, these Texas Republicans who say that they're tough and independent are being told to completely redraw their own districts in order to allow a president to do continued cover-ups. That's what's going on here. And remember, Trump learned this lesson after the 2018 election, where he lost a majority in Congress, and suddenly there could be subpoenas and investigations against him and his corruption and his criminality. Suddenly his legislative agenda could be blocked. He doesn't want that to happen again because his crime and criminality and corruption is like 10 times worse now. And so he is basically telling Texas Republicans, I don't care about you or your constituents or your seat. Trump only cares about him covering for himself. And now they've got the choice about whether they're going to stand up for themselves and their state or whether they are just, Trump's boys. And that's the question that's before them right now. I mean, we just went through this devastating flood where people in the county that I'm in right now died and lost loved ones and family members and their children. We could be focused on relief and rebuilding, but Trump is telling Texas Republicans, no, your focus is redistricting.
Yeah, what did he say when Epstein came up? When in the aftermath of that flood, he said,
"We have Texas to worry about."
He said it sounds like a bit of a desecration to bring up. It might be a bit of a desecration to not focus on the families affected and just make it about your own power grab. But I digress.
Exactly. But the thing I really want folks to come away with knowing is that this is in many ways the ball game, and that no matter where you are across the country, you can help. Call your governor, call your member of Congress, elevate this issue because this is Trump trying to rig the election before we even have it. And so it is time right now. And those Texas legislators who get something like $6,000 a year for their job. I mean, them having to take the risks of fleeing the state or doing filibusters and this kind of work, that they could really use your support fighting for our democracy right now. It's starting here.
Absolutely. We'll put in, we always have the congressional switchboard in our comment, in our description, but we'll direct people to that as well so they can make those kinds of calls. And especially if you're in a blue state like New York, like California, start to say, you know, we want to fight fire with fire, and your representatives, they'll listen to that kind of thing.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out. It's hard to assess what the dynamic is with Musk and Trump right now. Ostensibly, it looks like Musk is distancing himself from Trump, and he's certainly attempting to do that, I would imagine, because Tesla's sales have been in the absolute crapper. His SpaceX project has had what now? He's 0 for 3. There's only so much you can learn from it blowing up every time. And there's only so many times it can blow up where people are going to buy this is actually a good thing.
And I'm sure the Trump administration is thrilled. Like, if he's going to publicly distance himself from them, they have way more to lose by him continuing to be publicly associated with them than the other way around.
So it's unclear if this isn't just like for show.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, the thing that Trump cares about is how much money are you going to deploy to continue to enforce some type of discipline on House and Senate Republicans.
But it's notable that on Friday, that article about, I think, his drug use mentioned early on that he has yet to make good on his $100 million pledge for Trump's super PACs and organizations going into 2026. Now he has a lot of time. But I found it notable that in that article on the Times, where there was a lot of incriminating information about Musk that only could have been known by people in the administration, that they made sure to note that he hadn't made good on his financial promises.
Yeah, it's weird. It's almost like if there's like sort of a veiled threat or a complaint in there. It's weird, though, because my understanding is that Stephen Miller's wife is now left the White House to be with Musk.
Spend more time with him.
24/7. To obviously just for work purposes.
God did that.
And
I believe that too.
I imagine Stephen Miller could just, ring his wife up on the phone and ask. Nevertheless, CBS's Pogue, is that his name? David Pogue? Yeah. Sat down with Elon Musk at SpaceX as they're trying to salvage both SpaceX reputation, while simultaneously maybe also salvaging some of the space wreck from SpaceX. And here's David Pogue with an interview that apparently there was a little bit of miscommunication before the interview.
But the interview didn't get off to a smooth start.
I noticed that all of your businesses involve a lot of components, a lot of parts. Do the tariffs and the trade wars affect any of this?
Tariffs always affect things a little bit.
Wondering what your thought is on the ban on foreign students, the proposal. I mean, you were one of those kids, right?
Yeah, I think we want to stick to, the subject of the day, which is like spaceships, as opposed to, presidential policy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was told anything's
Can you pause
good,
it? I'm sorry. So it's so funny because that crazy Bill Belichick interview with his young girlfriend was also CBS this morning. And this is the most softball of softball shows that you could go on. And I'm sure his PR team knew that, right? A morning show, it's not as hard hitting. It's not in the evening. It's on Sunday. You're there to supposedly, Bill Belichick was like this, promote your book that no one would care about if they weren't on TV asking you questions about that weird relationship that you're in. And it's the same thing with Elon Musk. Why would they independently go to do some fluff piece on SpaceX without asking you pertinent questions? That's literally the trade-off. But it's just the lack of the entitlement is just so bizarre to me.
I wonder if if Musk's, handlers set Musk up, or if Musk says at one, says when they come and ask him, he says, "Oh, fine, I can answer anything." And then when he gets into the moment, he's realized, like, oh, I can't. But go ahead.
Presidential policy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was told anything's good, but
no.
But Musk was willing to talk about the Doge firestorm.
You've spoken about how much of a grind and a stress it was on you. And, Tesla's reputation took a hit. Your reputation took a hit. People are very upset about Social Security and national parks and air traffic and food safety and cancer research, Alzheimer's research. Now that you've had a chance to look at it, might there have been a different approach?
I think what was starting to happen was that, it's a bit unfair because, Doge became the whooping boy for everything. So if there was some cut, real or imagined, everyone would blame Doge. I've had people think that, somehow Doge is going to stop them from getting their Social Security check, which is completely untrue.
Well, I guess I was just thinking about the, move fast and break things, before you really understand what the agency does.
Yeah, I guess part of it is depends on where you're coming from. So, I'm like a proponent of smaller government, not bigger government. So now if somebody's a proponent of, more government programs and bigger government, and they see, hey, Doge is cutting all these government programs, then they'll be fundamentally opposed to that because they think
okay.
the government.
First of all, this guy. So and to be fair, and I want to be fair to Elon Musk, this is going around, play number 6, and we'll come back to this. I want to be fair because my first reaction is this guy's an idiot, okay? But I think also, to be fair, this video is going around, and in the wake of that story on Friday, and frankly, I've heard things, from folks who are in, a circle of his friends that are more basically reported in this Times thing. This is going on here. Play this. So on one hand, I think he could be an idiot. On the other hand, it's just that he could be just so fried out of his mind when he's doing the interview. I mean, look at his just
acting very nicely. I think Colombia.
Whoa, that's really.
He's flying to Mars right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, so go back. But the idea that, he's complaining, everybody says that Doge was responsible for all these cuts, and then he says, well, the only reason why you have a problem with it is if you want government to be bigger. So then he accepts that he did the cuts.
Right.
And
disruptions.
Now, of course, he's also lucky because Dave Pogue obviously is not a political reporter and may not even read the political press because he doesn't know there were multiple attempts by Doge to shut regional offices. They shut some. They were going to make it harder to apply for Social Security.
All the stuff you're hearing about fraud was a pretext to slash it.
There wasn't, the pretending there was all these 150-year-olds getting checks and whatnot. That's really unfair.
You want 140-year-olds to get Social Security.
Him. Really unfair to him. But then he goes on to say, and it's really just the people who are complaining are people like big government.
Yeah, you know who else asked this question according to the Wall Street Journal over the weekend? Was it all bullshit? Trump asked, according to administration officials, wondering whether Musk could have ever come close to the cuts he promised to carry out through the Department of Government Efficiency, because Trump doesn't understand how our government works at all, despite being the most powerful person in it. You have to, once a bill is signed into law for what the budget is going to be for the year, you have to faithfully execute it. Elon was going on the back end and illegally trying to cut money that had already been allocated.
There's also an interesting, there was an interesting piece in Fast Company, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago with that Gumroad founder who said, it turns out government's actually more efficient than I would have thought.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
But here we go.
Then they'll be fundamentally opposed to that because they just think the government should do more things. That's just a fundamental, I guess, ideological opinion. But my frank opinion of the government is that, like, the government is just like the DMV that got big. Okay, so when you say, like, let's have the government do something, you should think, do you want the DMV to do it?
And then
pause it for a second. I will tell you, I was just able to up my car registration. I got the first of 3 notices that they email you. My registration not even expired until August. And they send you 3 notices. It took me, I would say, maybe 15 minutes online. Maybe 15 minutes online to up my registration. In New York City, which is probably the most sort of like longest waits of DMV, you could still go in there.
You could schedule in advance so that you only have to wait, honestly, max a half hour if you schedule in advance.
The idea that somehow the DMV is a good example is like only spoken by people who never go to the DMV. I can assure you,
I was about to say,
that dude has not been in a DMV. If ever.
The DMV should arrest him for making the Cybertruck.
In fact, he's an existential threat to the Department of Motor Vehicles with his like ball of fire and
wanted
junk.
Poster up with him.
Every time I see one of those things on the road, I'm like, why does it have a razor edge, like sharp trunk that could puncture somebody easily? It's insane that those things are allowed.
But you know what bums them out about the DMV, these people, is that there's poor people there.
Yes.
And they have to be with them physically in the same place.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, they just let anybody into the DMV to register a car.
At least the DMV works when it's supposed to, unlike the platform that he purchased, which never works anymore, Twitter.
Started talking about the Trump administration. I hadn't even asked him about Trump.
And, it's not like I agree with everything the administration does. So it's like, I agree with much of what the administration does, but we have differences of opinion. There's things that I don't entirely agree with. But it's difficult for me to bring that up in an interview because then it creates a bone of contention. So then I'm a little stuck in a bind where I'm like, well, I don't want to, speak out against the administration, but I don't want to. I also don't want to take responsibility for everything the administration is doing.
Oh, this is tough.
How much money did you give him? How much money did you give Trump to win?
It's just $250 million that we know of.
I don't have responsibility.
It's not my fault. There was Miriam Adelson gave $120 million. How come nobody asked her? I also was basically Donald Trump's body double for the past 6 months.
It was literally his shadow dressed in black showing up everywhere he went, right behind him.
I could not even burp without Donald Trump smelling it for the past 6 months. I was so close to him at every moment. But yeah, I am held responsible for everything.
It's so sad.
You're the richest, or one of the richest guys in the world.
Richest, I think.
What's the point of being such a small bean? If you're gonna, I don't know. You gave how much money?
I mean, this is a sign of his panic because he's so desperate to separate himself, but also so desperate to stay close to power, so desperate to convince the Tesla board of directors that, I'm here, I'm back. The magic is back. I don't think so. I mean, if there's a small bump in Tesla sales, anything bigger than that, I'd be shocked.
Shocking.
They torched that brand because he's a scumbag.
Gosh. I mean, Tesla saw its net income slide 71% in the first quarter. I mean, this interview, though, that's going to turn things around.
Is there any more to it? Let's see the turnaround part.
Washington, federal workers say that DOGE has left the government's operations in disarray. And worst of all, it might have all been for nothing. Musk claims to have saved the government $175 billion so far, nowhere close to his original target, or even his revised target. And that was before the president's new spending bill passed the House. According to the Congressional Budget Office, it will add $3.8 trillion to our debt over the next 10 years. It's now being debated in the Senate.
So, I was like disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, doesn't decrease it, and undermines the work that the DOGE team is doing.
I actually thought that when this big, beautiful bill came along. I mean, like, everything he's done on DOGE gets wiped out in the first year.
I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both. My personal opinion.
Well,
so sad.
So sad. But I'm sure he walks away with a lot of the data that doesn't belong to him.
I like the idea that it's even the way he puts it there, like it dwarfs or it's more than what he saved. He only saved, if we take that billion figure for granted, which I don't know if they
claimed it was 165 next year in 2026.
Right.
Yeah, because it was ruled in the courts, right? Remember, they had done it, scraped all of this data, and some of the money has to be paid because it was for services that were already rendered, and they were trying to claim that was savings, and that stopped them. But they did make sure that millions more children in the continent of Africa will contract HIV, and that's a legacy that he can be proud of, I'm sure.
He is.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out. Listener Spocko sent us this video of Representative Mike Flood, Republican from Nebraska. Now, Nebraska is one of those places where, there was a fairly tight Senate race. And
Osborne way overperformed, especially as an independent candidate.
And there is burgeoning dissent there. I don't know if Mike Flood is in any jeopardy, but it's not like Nebraska is is its own country. It's indicative of a lot of problems that the Republicans are going to have around the country. Here's Mike Flood being asked by his constituents to justify different aspects of this reconciliation bill, which is going to ultimately kick anywhere from 8 to 14 million people off of Medicaid. It's going to cut $500 billion out of Medicare because of the sequestration as a function of this bill's not being remotely balanced. It is also going to kick millions off of SNAP. And we will talk about the specifics, or let's let Mike Flood talk about the specifics after he looks through his notes on the bill he voted for.
Didn't agree, but we would have gotten so much done if I could do that 5 times a day in people's living rooms. I only share that because this is what I do right now, because it's what I know how to do. But I got to figure out a way to put my arms around those people that I think just want those answers. I know. Okay, next question.
Next question is, I'm concerned about the SNAP benefits being cut and the age of depending being lowered from 11 to 7. Children should not be punished for being born into poverty.
Okay, pause it right there. I want to explain what that question is. The age cutoff that this questioner is asking about, this is just a constituent of Mike Flood's. The bill is going to expand a restriction as to who is not eligible for SNAP funds. And right now, current SNAP rules, Most non-elderly, non-disabled adults without children in their homes cannot receive benefits for more than 3 months out of every 3 years unless they document that they're working at least 20 hours per week or prove they qualify for an exemption. Now, they're going to expand who this applies to. Up now, it applies to people up to the age of 55. If you're over age 55, you are eligible to get SNAP benefits without documenting that you're working at least 20 hours per week or that you're disabled, you have some other exemption. The other exemption to this rule was if you are a parent and you have a child under the age of 11. Well, they're dropping that down to a child under the age of 6. So if you are 7, you are 8, you are 9, you are 10, and your parent, for whatever reason, is not working, you go hungry. You go hungry. Here is, so that's just the question. And he's being asked, why did you change this? Why do you have to work until you're 64 as opposed to 56 to be eligible for SNAP benefits? Remember, as you get older, it's tougher to work. It's tougher to find work if you've lost work. There's wear and tear on your body. You may have a disability that doesn't actually reach the threshold of Social Security disability, but it's going to inhibit your ability to work. And then, of course, if you're 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, you don't really have control over what your parents do. Good.
Okay, next question.
Next question is, I'm concerned about the SNAP benefits being cut and the age of depending being lowered from 11 to 7. Children should not be punished for being born into poverty.
Oh, look at, go through my notes. I know this. Okay.
Okay.
Pause it. Now, I just want to be clear also, as this guy looks for his notes on Snap, literally a teenager who spent 20 minutes reading about this bill would know that SNAP is the second largest pool of money that is being cut in this bill. And this guy has absolutely no idea what this woman who asked her a question is referencing.
Let me check my notes on the whether I took food out of people's mouths.
And he's going to go, and he's not even looking for notes on the bill. He's looking for what the talking points are in a generic sense, because you can tell he's not even addressing any of this stuff.
Poverty.
Snap. Let's see. Snap talking points. Snap talking. Okay, here we go.
Okay. I knew SNAP was going to be an issue, and it's something that I know the Lincoln Food Bank is here. SNAP during COVID was greatly expanded for good reason. We had a lot of people that couldn't work. We had a lot of different programs that were expanded, inflated, added to. We want to make sure that people that can work are working. And again, our SNAP error rate in Nebraska is nothing compared to the other states. Which means that states like Nebraska, under this bill, if enacted in its current form, are going to get a benefit by running a quality program, where states that continue to have an unacceptable error rate are going to see a continued reduction in funding. I think when the dust settles on the SNAP program, Nebraska will benefit from having a very well-run program. Now, the proof will be in the pudding, and I'm sure I will understand everything that's happening. I saw my friends from Lincoln Food Bank.
Okay, pause. I just wanted to be clear what this guy's answer was as to why you changed the restrictions on who is eligible for this. We have a low error rate here. In other words, everybody who's on SNAP right now is, not everybody, but whatever it is, the vast, overwhelming majority of people on SNAP in Nebraska qualify. He doesn't address the fact that they're changing the qualifications. He's implying that somehow Nebraska is going to benefit because other states have higher error rates. And then he's going to see, we got to see how it comes out. The proof will be in the pudding, is if this starves kids or not. And then well, we're not going to go back in and do anything about it, but we'll know.
We're going to benefit so much that it doesn't matter that we just cut the benefit for or lowered the age from 11 to 7.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61-year-olds, 62-year-olds, 63-year-olds, 64-year-olds. If you're not working 20 hours a week, we know you're just coasting into I mean, who is the 56-year-old? How many of the 56-year-olds in this country are like, I've lost my job, but I'm living large, and you know what? For those 3 months out of the year or 4 months out of the year that my income is below a certain threshold, I'm going to be able to get $200 a month for food. Maybe. I mean, he's saying there's very little fraud in the system right now as it stands.
Was it fraud by like 9-year-olds?
And his only response is, well, we got to see how it works out. Go ahead.
Having a very well-run program. Now, the proof will be in the pudding, and I'm sure I will understand everything that's happening. I saw my friends from the Lincoln Food Bank. They have some concerns as they came in here.
Sorry, I just want to get that one more time. The proof will be in the pudding, and I'm sure I'll understand everything that's happening.
We got to get that a drop. Yeah. I'm sure I'll understand everything that's happening after it happens.
Settles on the SNAP program, Nebraska will benefit from having a very well-run program. Now, the proof will be in the pudding, and I'm sure I will understand everything that's happening. I saw my friends from the Lincoln Food Bank. They have some concerns as they came in here tonight. I'm going to be finding out how this affects them because they're obviously on the front lines of food, people that have food insecurity. I will have to take that up.
Okay.
Pause it. I will have to take it up. You voted for the bill already. You voted for the bill already. Your friends over at the Lincoln Food Bank have already said, hey, dude, this is going to screw us. Now, he's implying, well, maybe I'll fix it when it comes back from the Senate. Go ahead.
Research, sir.
Next question is...
Okay, next question.
Is please explain to all sides that Medicaid and Social Security are not being cut and explain why the left keep up that myth.
Okay, pause it. So there's a myth that Social Security and Medicaid are going to be cut, according to this questioner. Now, this bill does not cut Social Security. This bill cuts Medicaid. By any estimation, by anybody, by $900 billion. Now, in the final end, it may not, maybe it'll be a little bit less. But it cuts Medicaid in that amount. Now, Mike Johnson even agrees it cuts that, but he says it's all fraud and abuse. It's all Doge. It also cuts Medicare because it will be eligible for sequestration, cuts across the board. Watch how he addresses the cuts to Medicaid in this bill. And I will give you a spoiler alert. He talks about anything but.
And explain why the left keep up that myth.
Well, honestly, this is one of the concerns, the Social Security concern of the 8 women that I met with at the end of Columbus. Their chief concern was that the Social Security benefits were being cut. And the reality is, the Congressional Budget Act of 1974 specifically prohibits Congress from having anything to do to modify, change, reduce any benefit related to Social Security. So of all the concerns that some of you may have, your Social Security benefits being reduced are not one of them. However, you should know that in 2032, 2033, our Social Security Trust Fund will not be fully funded anymore. And there will be decisions to be made, which I hear people coming up with ideas. I think when you look at the Medicaid changes that we made, we did a very good job to avoid making Medicaid changes that affect patient care. And that is something that we will ultimately find out as we go forward. We hear more about it in the Senate. I'll have an opportunity to vote on it again.
There you go. There it is. There's your Medicaid answer. It's not going to change patient care at all, except for it's going to have a lot less patients because millions upon millions of people are going to be booted off of Medicaid. And if a hospital is closed, can they provide worse patient care? I don't think so. I don't think they're providing any. So it's not going to change patient care. It's just going to be fewer patients and fewer places for them to get care. That's it. And then let me talk about Social Security for like the 90% of the answer. I mean, these guys are going out there and they have this is I don't know if it's a blood red district, but this is not a guy who is in any type of jeopardy of losing his seat to a Democrat. And this is his inability to answer these basic questions at a town hall.
You don't want the food bank people looming large being upset at you at your town halls, I don't think.
I mean, good luck to any Republican in anything less than like an R6 district. Republican in a R6 district, go do a town hall challenge is what I say. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out. I just want to read a little bit of this piece by David Dayen in the Prospect yesterday. The coup has failed, so that people have a little bit of hope. I mean, look, this is not, there is no reason to stand down now. And this is, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be hurt by what's going on with the Trump administration going forward over the next 4 years. A lot of people are going to lose their jobs. A lot of people are going to lose their health care. A lot of people are going to lose their support, food stamps. I mean, we're just across the board. We're going to increase suffering in this country. But in terms of like our ability to build back, as it were, following a Trump administration, Dayen proclaims that he believes that the coup, as it were, has failed. The idea of consolidating power and punishment of enemies, he believes, has on some level fundamentally failed. He believes that there was an overreach. He's talking about every headline out of Washington being about Elon Musk. There's a sense among Americans that Trump is not keeping his eye on the ball. They are exhausted by Elon Musk.
Ugh.
Sorry.
Tried it again.
He writes, as the economy drifts towards a combination of higher unemployment and higher inflation, last seen in the presidency of the late Jimmy Carter, Trump will find it harder to simply sweep in and take power. Town hall held by Rich McCormick, Republican in Georgia last week, in a district that went for Trump 60-38, was a disaster, with angry constituents demanding he stand up for them and not let Trump control the federal budget and cut services for the needy. Other deep red districts have seen similar dynamics. In rural eastern Oregon, a town hall held by Representative Cliff Benz, Republican in Oregon, in a county that went 68% for Trump, the crowd shouted, "Tax Elon, tax the wealthy, tax the rich, and tax billionaires." In Oklahoma, constituents demanded that Representative Kevin Hern, who won in November 60-34, put Musk under oath. In Wisconsin, Representative Glenn Grantham won by a similar number. At a town hall near Oshkosh, he faced a parade of boos and shouts, as did fellow Wisconsinite Representative Scott Fitzgerald, Republican. I can tell you right now that no national group is saying we need to dedicate our resources in, in Oklahoma or in, a county that went 68% for Trump. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's going to their donors and say, if we just had funding.
Right.
I mean, people are pissed. And now, there's a small percentage of people who are paying attention. Maybe these are Democrats and indivisible people going out to these town halls. I have no doubt that's the majority of them. These are not Trump voters who are doing that. But even if he won by a 68% to 38% or 60 to 38% margin, you don't want the news reminding people who are not paying attention to this that, hey, wait a second. Not only are the egg prices high, which they know when they go to the store, but what's going on?
I also, these are real people in these communities. These are real people who are going to be affected and see their economy destabilize. And even if they're the biggest MAGA person ever, they may go to soccer with another family, and like their kid is playing on the soccer team with parents, one of them who just lost their job, laid off in the federal workforce. So the idea that this can happen and not affect communities across the country, maybe we'll get into this in the fun half. There are almost 1 million federal workers in states that voted for Donald Trump. Over 1 million, or almost 1 million. And I think a lot of these folks are going to run for office. We'll see if they have good politics. I mean, that's kind of more what I care about. But I do think that there's going to be a grassroots movement to have some of these fired federal workers challenge these Republicans.
Yep. All right, we're going to take a break, head into the fun half, and we've got some polling on the economy, which is really stunning.
All we have to do is flood the zone. Every day we hit them with 3 things. They'll bite on one, and we'll get all of our stuff done. Bang, bang, bang. These guys will never be able to recover.
That's Steve Bannon spelling out the strategy. Overwhelm Americans with news so Trump can quietly push his real agenda. This is the shock doctrine in action, and it's happening right now. Trump is flooding the news cycle with executive orders so the media jumps from headline to headline while his real power grabs go unnoticed, and it's working. Go to ground.news/majority or scan this QR code to find the only source covering Trump quietly reversing a rule banning lobbyists from giving gifts or joining the government. Trump is using chaos to hide corruption in plain sight again. And unless you have ground news, you probably missed it. That's why I've relied on my partners for years now. Their app, website, browser extension let me compare coverage from across the political spectrum, find angles my usual outlets may have missed. Because I can't track everything Trump's doing or undoing, I've also built personalized feeds to follow key issues from independent sources I trust. This way, I'm not getting sucked into the same media traps everyone else does. So if you're tired of getting lost in the chaos, get the same unlimited access Vantage plan I use for almost half the price. Just go to ground.news/majority or scan my QR code to subscribe for $5 a month. If you aren't controlling your news, they're controlling you. Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.
Is this me?
It is you. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Oh, hey. This is Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan. Oh, long time no call into
Man,
the show.
People be calling.
Yep.
You guys are crazy busy these days. So
Well, we get a lot of calls. We have, let's see, 33 calls stacked up right now.
Crazy. I remember the old days when you were in a closet, a literal closet, and you'd call in. There's nobody waiting. It's like you were waiting for the call.
Yeah.
And then you just would take any call.
Now we don't have to spend a lot of time with bad callers.
Yeah, honestly, that's too bad because, remember Greg?
Yeah, I do. I do remember Greg.
Anyways, shout out to Greg wherever he is. I think Greg and Jimmy Reefercake are doing a podcast somewhere. And
I would actually listen to that.
Low key, I was gonna say, like, somebody post a link to the Patreon. I'm signing up. So you're doing a really great job with the ICE stuff, the videos. I wanted to talk real quick about the stuff that happens on the back end and why what's going on is really so egregious. So a lot of the people.
Well, I should just remind people that, Ronald Reagan, that you are an immigration attorney.
True. Yes. So
probably with
not
clients
everyone
waiting in your lobby right now, but go ahead.
No, there's a couple here right now, but they don't speak English. They think I'm calling about their case. So, and I'm going to make some typing noises. Hold on just a second. Okay. So not everybody, but a lot of the people that are being targeted have prior removal orders. They either maybe had a hearing a long time ago and missed it. They didn't know about it. Or maybe they fought their case to the end and they lost and now they're stuck with this final removal order. One of the reasons why it's so problematic to just detain and deport somebody right away, first of all, they don't give any proof of the removal order. They tell you to FOIA it, which will take months. So you're kind of taking their word that a removal order happened, that everything happened correctly. They're also not giving people the opportunity to leave on their own. So I've had, I mean, maybe at this point, like half a dozen clients who were like in the process of getting their stuff together. It's a big deal to move countries, and they were just detained and deported. Whereas in the past, they would say, okay, look, in a month, you need to come back with proof that you've purchased a plane ticket. And if you don't, then, you know, there's a risk of being detained, but at least they were willing to work with people in that position. But just two quick stories from my past. We had a guy who was called in to do a check-in. This is probably during the Obama administration because he had missed a hearing and had a removal order. Well, we were able to do a FOIA, get the paperwork, and we saw that they delivered the hearing notice to a street and not an avenue. So he never got notice. That case was reopened. But under the current environment, there's like no way you would have the time to first of all, they're denying any stay requests. Like if you're asking for, hey, give us a couple months, no. It's a straight no. If you ask, like, can I get copies of the hearing notice that was sent? No, you need to file a FOIA. So can the person like stay with their family while we investigate all this stuff? No. So that guy today, 100% is getting deported. In another case, a lady came to me again during the Obama administration, and she fought her asylum case to the end, lost with another attorney, obviously, not me.
Right.
And was being told, like, by the local ICE office, okay, you got to come back next week, like, ready to go. You're at the end of the line here. Well, she came to me, and her daughter had been a victim of a crime, and her attorney represented both her and the perpetrator of that crime and told her, like, there's no grounds for relief here. But there was. And so because ICE was willing to work with her a little bit, we were able to get an application filed, go with her to her next appointment and say, look, this is in the hopper. Like, we're working on this. She needs a little bit more time. And she's now a permanent resident. So she and her daughter both have green cards. And so even though a final removal order is final, like who is and isn't deportable is like very messy. And now they're completely quota driven, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, they're deporting people in situations that don't make any sense.
Right. In other words, like they could, someone could decide like, okay, I'm at the end of the line in terms of my legal recourse. I promise to leave the country within 2 or 3 weeks so that I can just, you know, say goodbye to people, get everything in order. ICE won't have that because they then lose the credit for deporting you.
Right. So we had a family, a big family that lost their case. The final order came down from the Ninth Circuit on like June 3rd, and literally a couple days later, they went to check in and they detained and deported one of the adult sons, even though the family was. I mean, they told me, like, we've never had any intention of being here illegally. We know that we lost, and we're in the in the process of planning our return. And what this did is it rushed the rest of the family to like get the fuck out of here. And that wasn't somebody who was ordered or moved like 20 years ago. Like at the time they detained him, the final order came down like 2 or 3 days before. And so, and we have a guy, for example, who sometimes you have a final removal order, but you can still get your green card, but you've got to leave the country to do it. And in order to leave the country to do it, you have to file a series of waivers. And all this is so stupid, but this is the way that it works. And his first waiver was approved, and the second waiver is pending. This guy takes care of his permanent resident parents. He's got a U.S. citizen spouse, children. He's lived here since I was probably like 10. And again, the second waiver is approved. And when that second waiver is it's pending. When it's approved, they schedule him for an interview in Mexico. He leaves the country, goes to his interview, and gets his green card. So they call him in, and I put all this together. I'm emailing it to him. I bring in a physical copy. I explain, like, this is how, part of the problem is, like, ICE literally doesn't know how the immigration system works. And some of it is ignorance, and some of it is, they don't care. But I guess that's the same thing. Anyways, and they detained and deported him. And it's like, well, he's coming back. Like, now he just has to spend extra time in Mexico. So it's a waste of time all around. And two quick PSAs for you and the audience. One, don't trust these guys. I had somebody recently call their father, who's the primary caretaker of his U.S. citizen adult son with Down syndrome, was detained. And the daughter said, the local officer was really nice. He said that he understood the situation, and because he was sympathetic, instead of sending him to point A, we're going to send him to point B. And it was communicated in a way that made it seem like that was a favor, but like point B is where they get deported from. And I was in the other day, and one of the officers was putting somebody on like an intensive, basically like a super, a surveillance program where they have to track them with phone apps, and you have to send in a picture every week and all this stuff. And they said, well, you're going to be assigned a case manager. And the immigrant said, you mean like a social worker? And the ICE agent said, yeah, kind of like that. It's not fucking anything like that. It's not a social worker. But they're happy to communicate this stuff. They tell people who don't qualify for bond, oh, you know what, I'm sorry I have to do this. This isn't really, it's not my decision. But here, if you sign this, you can get a bond from a judge, and a judge is going to be the one who decides. But there's no fucking judge. And they either don't know that, or they are passing that along to make themselves feel like I'm not the real bad guy here. There's going to be somebody else further on in the process that is going to make the real tough decision. But the decision's been made, and they made it. So one, don't trust anything they say. Don't sign anything they want you to sign. I mean, unless it's something super basic that you can read and understand and you want to sign it. But like, you should not trust what they're saying. They're lying to people every single day. And then two, this is maybe like big picture stuff, but we just have to normalize the A word, amnesty. Like, there is no other way out of this other than the strong, robust amnesty, period. And in the past, there's, everybody's been sort of, not everybody, but a lot of people have been trepidatious about using that word because, it's going to trigger the conservatives. But like, this situation where like we vacillate between slightly nicer ICE and then full-on fascist ICE and then back again, like this system is fucked for immigrants, even when they're being nice. Like, the nice version of this is like, well, yeah, you don't get access to Social Security, and you don't get access to the social safety net, and you live with the vague threat that this stuff could change at any moment and that your life could be ruined, but like it probably won't be. Like, that's the good version of the current system. So I think my hope for you or other people on our side, like, if we're going to be playing these clips, even if it's a throwaway at the end, like we need an amnesty for the people who are, not just economic cogs in a machine, but their neighbors, their parents in our schools, their children are in our schools. And what's happening to them is like so fucked up. And it's not going to change if we get just, somebody with a D at the end of their name. We have to have structural change. We have to put pressure on politicians to start talking this way, because ultimately they're the lawmakers.
Yep.
You guys are the ones that let the system stagnate. In some ways it was designed this way, which is even worse. But in other ways it just sort of has sat there. And so I think it's time to start sprinkling that in and letting that marinate. So
when are you going to restart Redirected?
Yeah, I need to probably do that. Honestly, I'm not the primary victim in all this, but when you're an immigration attorney, lots of immigration attorneys charge flat fees. So, for this, we'll do it for this. And it's normal for there to be fires to be put out. Oh, something weird happened, we got to do that. And I'm really bad at upcharging or charging more.
It's got to be crazy right now.
My whole job is putting out fires. They're recalendaring all these old cases that were closed as a matter of discretion under Obama. So we have this huge family that came to me when I first started practicing in 2012, and I think there's 15 or 16 of them, and they were there was a disbarred attorney who filed asylum applications for all of them, promising you're going to get your green card. And what that does is you get a work permit temporarily, but then they deny the asylum application and put you in removal proceedings. So they came to me, sorry, this is rambling, this is the last story. They came to me in 2012, we just need help renewing our green cards. And I was like, well, first of all, you don't have a green card. Second of all, you're going to get deported because you're now in removal proceedings. And because of the Obama enforcement priorities, all those cases were closed, quote unquote, put on the shelf, basically taken off the court's docket. And the ICE attorneys have now moved to recalendar all those cases, plus, dozens more. In one day, the Seattle Immigration Court received 700 motions to recalendar.
Jeez.
Some of those people they already have visas, or they have other things, but they're using a boilerplate motion that says we checked and they don't have status, but a lot of them do. So anyways, it's been pretty crazy, but I will, I'm hoping to find a co-host, maybe Greg or Jimmy Reaper Cake, if they could hit me up. I think we could tag team it and great things could happen. So,
well, people are bringing up Chris Lepaco in the Chris Lepaco in the the chat.
There's a name from way back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, hang in there.
Right, thank you.
Hang in there.
No, take care. Thanks.
Rob from Minneapolis. Reagan sounds like he's aged 25 years since he last called in. He must be exhausted. I would imagine. His job has gotten much more difficult as of late. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.